Well, hi, everybody. It's Michael Angelo Caruso. I am very fortunate in what I do for a living as a professional speaker, as an author, to occasionally have people actually listen to me. And sometimes that's done through the power of the microphone here. This is the microphone today. Sometimes it's done through a blog post. MichaelAngeloCaruso.com is my blog. Sometimes through a podcast, same website. Look for the podcast. Sometimes it's through a YouTube channel. And by the way, if you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, you're being notified of new videos as they come out. So I really appreciate that. But we all have people that listen to us. We all have audiences. And a little bit ago, I posted on Facebook that unsuccessful people often have advice. And that's all I posted. Unsuccessful people often have advice. And it created quite a bit of discussion about, well, what would unsuccessful people have to share with you anyway that you'd want to hear? Should we prevent unsuccessful people from having the microphone? So there were all these big picture types of approaches to it. I think everybody has opinions. I think everyone has a right to their opinion. But I don't think everyone's opinion is equal. This is sometimes considered to be a politically incorrect statement, but in fact it's true. That if you've actually done something and achieved the measure of success with it, I think that your opinion's more valuable than someone who has merely watched other people do it, right? You'd still have an opinion about having watched it. But I mean, think about it in your own life. When you talk to friends who are, say, less financially successful than you are, and then they give you investment advice, or someone who is not as good at taking care of themselves as you are, giving you advice on how to control your weight or how to stay healthy, right? And you're like, you're sick all the time, man. What are you giving me health tips for? And the same thing happens to me. People would offer me tips on stuff, and I have to consider the source, right? I have to consider where the tip comes from. And recently, this opinion, this politically incorrect opinion of mine, has been reinforced by a guy named Ray Dalio in his book, Principles. I got through the book. It's not an easy read. It's over 500 pages. And just quickly, Dalio's an interesting guy. He's not only the most successful hedge fund manager of our lifetime, he's the most successful hedge fund manager in history. And the reason he was so successful is at his company, Bridgewater, he was able to create a list of rules, a rule set on when to buy and when to sell in the market. So that's how he played the market, right? Where a lot of people try to intellectualize the market and game it and game the system. Some people relying on their intuition on when they should buy and sell. Dalio's people created rule sets based in algorithms, right? Higher math. You didn't sell unless the algorithm told you to. And you didn't buy unless the algorithm told you to. And guess what? It turns out computers are almost always smarter than people. It's true that people have emotion and there are some real benefits to being a person, right? But when it comes to making decisions, it's not always in our best interest to listen to our emotions or to even be human about it. Sometimes it's better just to be a machine, like a computer, and have a rule set, and that's how you go about things. I'm not sure I agree with everything that Dalio puts forth in his book, but he did support me on something, and so I feel like I felt a little bit validated, and I want to share what he has in his book about this idea that, if you haven't actually done it, then your opinion's not as valuable to me as somebody else's who may have experience in this. So he talks about, in his book on work principles, he talks about this idea of how to identify the fact that someone else doesn't know what to do something doesn't mean that you know what to do, right? So imagine you're on a team and you're working with somebody and you're like, he's doing it all wrong. Here's what he should do, right? So just because the other guy doesn't know what to do doesn't mean you know what to do. That's the first part of his point. He says it's one thing to point out a problem. It's another to have an accurate diagnosis and a quality solution. Very true. And here's my favorite part. The litmus test for a good problem solver is, number one, they are logically able to describe how to handle the problem. And number two, they have successfully solved the problem in the past, similar problems in the past. So that's pretty important, right? If you're going to listen to somebody about how to solve a problem, it's important that they be able to logically describe how to do it. In other words, preview for you how to solve it, right? You don't want to guess. And then secondly, they must have actually successfully solved a similar problem in the past. I mean, what better way to decide who to listen to than to listen to somebody who's actually solved similar problems in the past? A track record, solved that problem many times in the past, right? And so that's why I say that unsuccessful people often have advice. I think that we should listen to them. We should still have conversation, especially if they're our friends or family. But I think we should listen to and act on the advice of people who have actually been successful in that arena. More on my thoughts, my musings at michaelangelocaruso.com. Look for the blog, look for the podcast. Thank you.